All right, we'll have Kevin and Mike both open up with some comments, and we'll open up for questions. Kevin?
All right, it's good to see you guys back in a familiar setting of this press room, and we're super excited to be able to draft Kenny Pickett with our first-round pick. Honestly, never thought he would make it to us at 20. Exciting times for us, for Kenny, for the University of Pittsburgh, and for Pittsburgh in general. It's great, and we couldn't be more excited. Coach?
You know, it's interesting. We circled the globe, or at least the United States here, the last several months, man, just, exploring and researching. And it's funny, we, ended up with the guy from next door. We're excited about it. To be able to not only know what he's capable of, but to see his process, his maturation process, his developmental process. It's just a great deal of comfort, and we're excited.
Questions?
Kevin, how much did it help that he's right next door? I mean, you had a chance to see him evolve, like Mike just said.
Yeah, honestly, you watch them grow over the years. And sometimes we're more critical of the Pitt guys because we've watched them grow from freshmen on up. And, we get a little too critical at times. We talk about that, because some of the other kids, the other players, we catch them in their sophomore, junior year, and you don't get to see them quite as much. But honestly, Kenny developed, obviously had a great senior year, and it was a good move for him to stay in school. And it just talks and preaches about what you can do when you stay and continue to develop and turn into a first-round pick. And Kenny's he's special, and he grew from, like I said, we watched him come in as a freshman. You knew who he was, and when he became a starter, you just continued to watch him grow and into the great season that he had. But we really don't get to see the Pitt kids as much as you think we do. They're on an opposite practice schedule. We get to see them play some more games. But like Coach said, just let me talk, this quarterback class was a special group of young men with Kenny. Obviously, we had Kenny valued the most because we took him first. And it's nothing to take away from those other young men. They're great. They're great people. They're going to be great players as well. But again, just super excited for Kenny.
Mike, what were the attributes that you like about Kenny, including the intangibles?
We talked about his high floor, and the high floor was because of the intangibles, but also the anticipation and the pro accuracy were very obvious and consistent when studying his tape.
He's also run the Canada offense a lot.
Did it make it at all more challenging for you guys knowing that you had all quarterbacks available at your pick?
No, it did not. You want options. And like Kevin mentioned, it was a pleasure to get to know all the young men through the process. And we took every opportunity to develop a relationship and to get to know them. And I'm appreciative of that, and just really impressed by those young men, all of them.
Real quick, whoever has their cell phone, keep beeping. Please turn it on silent. Go ahead, next question.
Kevin, you said that you didn't expect Kenny to be there at 20. What's going through your mind early on at pick 11 while all the trades started to happen and teams started moving up? Did you think he would still be there at that point?
We didn't know. I mean, we map it out. We get 20 guys lined up. The quarterbacks were in that group, and we just wait. And you hope and keep it going. You have options. You're not going to lose. We're going to get a player at 20. But to get that player at 20 was certainly a pleasant surprise.
Kevin, a few days ago you said that you watched some of these quarterbacks up as many as 7 times. Is this a guy that fit that 7 times?
Yeah, I mean, when Kenny was a young player, we weren't studying him, but you knew who he was. I remember sitting behind him at the Dapper Dan coming out of his sophomore year. And you're around them. But, we did get to see Kenny over the last 2 seasons, and this year in particular, it was great.
Mike, you mentioned the high floor of Kenny Pickett. How does that speak to potential NFL readiness when he gets here at 24, and how does that work with the dynamic of the other 2 experienced quarterbacks that you have?
I think that's what Kevin was alluding to when he mentioned it was a good thing for him to come back. And and go back to school and gain another year of college experience. He is 24 years old. He is a mature young man. You do see maturity in his game, and I think all of those things are going to put him into a position to compete.
Mike,
Do you think he will, is he going to get a chance to start this year, or I mean, how will that play out?
He'll be given an opportunity to compete, certainly.
Mike, you talk a lot about mobility and how vital it is in today's game. What does Kenny obviously shown he can move? What does he provide that? I mean, Willis was another guy that could also move. So what was the separator?
I like his mobility. I'm going to ask that he slide when he gets in certain circumstances.
Kevin, was it imperative if you guys address the quarterback position in this draft in your mind?
It wasn't. There's plenty of good players that we could have taken here. There's plenty left for us to take. But this quarterback group, if we could address it with people we felt worthy of this pick, we certainly were going to, because quarterback is the most critical spot in the National Football League. And that's not to take anything away from Mitch Trubisky and Mason Rudolph. We got 3 young quarterbacks, and I think it's going to be great competition. As Coach mentioned, they'll all be in it to see who becomes the starter. But now I think we got 3 real good options.
You mentioned his maturity a little bit too. What else about his off-the-field presence excites you both?
Kenny's just a mature, even-keeled guy. A lot of times, like when we're studying the quarterbacks, we not only watch them on the field, but we watch them off the field, when they come off, how they huddle with their teammates, how they interact with their coaches, how they conduct media interviews. We talked to Kenny about how he's going to handle this in this market, because he's going from a University of Pittsburgh great to a potential Steeler great. But it'll be different for him. He won't be a college player any longer. He'll be a professional. And there'll be different expectations. But we feel that the maturity that he displayed on and off the field will help him in that endeavor.
Mike, Kevin touched on it a little bit just now, but how do you kind of handle this with Mitch and Mason in terms of letting them know what you guys are doing?
It's really nothing to handle. Those guys are competitors. We're in a competitor's business. They understand that. They understand that we're building and constructing a team to win. And so I'm sure they're excited about having an opportunity to put their skills on display.
Kev, I'm guessing you thought he was the most NFL ready of the quarterbacks you had evaluated?
Again, there was a great group. And as Coach mentioned, we really enjoyed getting to know them, getting to know their families. But obviously when you take this guy first, he was our top choice. And again, can't take anything away from the rest of that group. But Kenny was clearly our top pick and at that position. And it was, again, unexpected.
Where did you see him make the biggest leap from last year to this year?
I think he continued to grow. Coach talked about his mobility. And, sure, he can create plays, but he finds receivers when he's creating. He's not necessarily going to scramble for 40 yards, 50 yards, but he may buy a little time to his left and still be able to throw it back to his right. And there's no panic in the young man, and that's really exciting. And again, I think he grew into he was like a first-year NFL player for Coach Narduzzi and Coach Whipple, just a mature player at that position. It obviously helped Pitt, and we're hopeful it helps us.
Quarterbacks usually go early. Why do you think the first one was at 20? How did they?
No idea. Honestly, I didn't know if any of them would make it to us at 20, but they were there, and again, Kenny was the pick.
You talked about Coach Whipple, and obviously you played for Coach Canada as well. How does a quarterback playing in a pro-style offense make your evaluation easier or different than someone who's not?
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. I mean, he's coming from a pro system, and sometimes it's an easier transition. It doesn't mean the players coming out of it can't make that transition. It may take a little bit longer. And you got to be careful as to not over-evaluate a player because he's coming from a familiar system. But I think Kenny, again, coming out, that'll help him. Going to the Senior Bowl helped him. And again, that was another great week where we got to see the top guys all in the same venue. So it'll be familiar for him. But again, he's going to go from being a great college player to hopefully a great NFL player.
Following that up, like what you talked about before with you sometimes can be a little bit more critical of the Pitt kids because you've seen them for so long. Maybe you've seen some more mistakes or bad games. Was there any part of you that, because you had those two veteran quarterbacks in place, you thought maybe we could take a younger guy and have him develop behind those guys? Did that come into the equation or the debate at all?
Yeah, I mean, we go through it all, and in the end, we're going to pick what we felt was the best player. Yeah, he's a little bit older than the rest of the group, but he was still the best. So the age factor never came into play.
Was there much made of the hand size thing?
It was for us. I mean, honestly, I never even paid attention to it. I believe it was the Clemson game. And there was other scouts here, and they said, he's got a small hand. And I said, no, thanks for sharing. But it really didn't matter because it was never a factor. His fumble rate was not anywhere near a problem. He could certainly throw the football. And sometimes we get hung up on all that analytical kind of measurements and short arms and long arms and so on and so forth. I just want to see the results. I know Coach does too. It certainly didn't affect them.
Two more.
Kevin, is there any anxious moments there of potentially moving up? Because I think the Saints slotted right before you, and they were quarterback needy.
Yeah, we made some calls. We did, but that's not unusual. We'll make some calls. We had people calling us from the bottom. We had people that we knew were interested in maybe trading down to our spot and us trading up. So we go through that process almost every round.
Mike,
Last one here.
Mike, I know you talk to the Pitt players sometimes, and they like to talk to you. Kenny said it, I think it was at the Combine, that you remember sitting on the bench with you, long conversations. Do you remember the first interaction you had with him, or first time you kind of noticed him even?
I make it my business to kind of get to know those guys, just to be neighborly, just to encourage them. And, so I've known them for several years now, whether it's in the parking lot or what have you, wishing them good luck on a big game of the week, neighborly type things. In a very natural way, much to like I've done with